Lilo404 here. Welcome to my channel. If you're a repeat viewer, thank you for coming back to my channel. Thanks for tuning in. I want to say thank you to my subscribers. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. If you're feeling the content, please like, share, comment. Right now, what I want to talk about is more of this hate and finger pointing at Deontay Wilder. I watched a video earlier today by I'm not gonna say the guy's name. Very knowledgeable brother. Drops a lot of good boxing videos. He has a lot of boxing knowledge. I think he's very dedicated boxing fan. Very educated and knowledgeable about a lot of things associated with boxing as a whole. But on this particular video, the guy, my man has a video where he's basically a thumbnail has picture of Wilder saying he with Thug over it. And this picture of AJ, it was earlier today when I saw it. I don't remember what the picture had of AJ, but basically it's kind of like a thug and a gentleman type illustration, type picture, where it's saying, and actually he goes into the talks and into his talking points on the video. He talks about part of the reason to fight. Well, he said this is the reason, the real reason the fight wasn't made between Wilder and AJ was because, Wilder is loud, he's a wild person, he really is, brash and, so forth and so on. I mean, I'm kind of paraphrasing on what the brother said, but, basically everything he said was around their personalities clash. He said Wilder personally doesn't like Joshua. That has a lot to do with why the fight wasn't made. He talks about Joshua being this very calm, diplomatic type guy, gentleman, if you will, soft-spoken, basically, it's a, he's basically to me, the way I interpret it, like he's talking as if AJ is this civilized person with a lot of class. Meanwhile, Wilder's this, supposedly this classless person, uncivilized, if you will, doesn't know how to conduct himself, so on and so on. He says the reason that Fury and Wilder could make a fight so easily is because they're the same type of person. And that AJ and Klitschko fight was made so easy because they have the same type personalities. And to that, I have to call BS. Klitschko has made fights with all types of people, and some of them were brash, loud, obnoxious, and just all totally opposite of how he presents himself to be. Now that said, I'm not gonna say I even agree with this guy's assessment of what type of person Deontay Wilder is, but that's the type of person he sees Deontay as. That's what he sees. But even if his assessment of Wilder is 100% spot on, and his assessment of AJ is 100% spot on, there's no reason to not make a fight. Even when you think about AJ and Dillian White and AJ had bad blood before their fight was ever made because of what happened with them in the amateurs. Dillian talked very greasy about AJ. And I'm not sure if it was the other way around as far as AJ talking bad about Dillian. I can't remember that. But I do remember Dillian talking, basically chasing AJ for that fight, saying that, AJ won't fight him. And, just all kind of slick talk. Their fight got made. When it came time to make the fight, it got made. And the reason that fight got made, in my opinion, is because AJ felt like he could beat Dillian White. He and his team saw what they need to see in Dillian to feel confident enough to make the fight. Man, AJ has said repeatedly people can listen or not listen. AJ has said repeatedly, as has Eddie Hearn, they talked about how dangerous an opponent Wilder is. Yeah, they initially came out with that nonsense talking about he'll spark Wilder inside of 3 rounds, this, that, and the third. But once they started actually actively trying to negotiate or pretending to negotiate, they backed off that. I mean, Eddie Hearn even talked about why should they fight Wilder for a fraction more money when they could fight 2 or 3. What was the word he used? It wasn't soft touches. It was actually like non-threat. You know, it was almost like he just dismissed the guys. He was like, Wilder is a serious threat, and we could fight 2 or 3 other guys, 2 or 3 other guys that aren't a threat at all, or something like that. I'll have to go back and find the video. But, I mean, he basically said, like, these other guys aren't even a threat whatsoever. And we can fight these guys and make almost as much money. So why would we fight Wilder for a little bit more money? You know, a few more million. That was something like that is what he said. But anyway, my point is, they've said repeatedly, you know, Wilder has always said himself that he's going to knock AJ out. You know, and he hasn't backed off of that one iota. I mean, he's consistently said that, you know, AJ, and basically not, these aren't his words, but to quote Floyd Mayweather, the phrase easy work that Floyd talks about when it comes to certain opponents, that's basically the way Wilder always talks about AJ, that AJ's easy work. You know, we use the term food. You know, AJ, he acts as if he knows AJ's food for him. And he's over the moon with confidence that he can beat AJ, knock him out. And AJ doesn't have that same confidence. AJ has talked about why should he be rushed into a Wilder fight. Y'all want to talk all this noise about Shelly Finkel saying Wilder won't be rushed into fighting Klitschko. That's what Shelly said. Deontay didn't say that. You know, Deontay said that fight with Klitschko had to happen. And he was looking forward to it happening. He said that was a fight he wanted. That was a fight Klitschko wanted. And he said that fight had to happen. It was just a matter of when. But what ended up happening is Klitschko fought Tyson Fury and lost. And that's what stopped that fight from happening. But y'all can hang on to these words. Shelly, who was the manager of both guys, Klitschko and Wilder, who had a reason for not making that fight, being that, you know, he's knocking off one. Just same reason Eddie doesn't want to make fights between certain people that he has options on. You know, Eddie has Eddie has Dillian White and Chisora, and he's not interested in making that rematch right now because both guys he can make substantial money off of fighting other people. Whereas with the AJ situation, he'll make a fight with AJ and Dillian more than likely again because it keeps AJ busy for people to not clamor for him to fight Wilder. But to get back on topic, you know, all of this talk about Wilder being afraid to fight Klitschko and that's why the fight didn't happen, that's BS. The talk about Wilder and AJ's personalities clashing being the reason they couldn't make the fight, that's BS. I mean, you gotta look at the guys Mike Tyson's fought. You know, guys like Evander Holyfield, Lennox Lewis. You know, the list goes on. I mean, even Muhammad Ali was loud and brash. He fought guys like Joe Frazier, who you never really... I mean, there's very few interviews of Joe Frazier talking about it. You know what I'm saying? And even when he did, he talked with a lot of humility. You know, even when he was going to fight a guy, you know, he really didn't talk down on him or anything like that. But Muhammad Ali would tell you he's knocking you out, what round he feels like he's going to knock you out in, and so forth and so on. I mean, that was just his personality. You know, even you take a guy like Floyd Patterson. You know, Floyd Patterson fought some guys that were very brash and loud. That wasn't Floyd's personality. You know, Floyd Mayweather even. You know, once he became this money character, you know, he was loud. brash, flashy. A lot of these guys he fought, they were very humble. They made the fights happen. You know, you didn't hear Marcos Maidana getting loud and, you know, acting like Floyd. Most of the guys that Floyd fought were very quiet and, you know, very low-key during the negotiations, during the build-up to the fight, everything. The only guy that was anything that was brash and loud like Floyd was Conor McGregor. So, I mean, this whole narrative that guys have to have similar personalities to make fights, or it helps to make fights, I mean, that's nonsense. I mean, that history tells a different story. Boxing history tells a different story. Guys' personalities have nothing to do with making a fight. Yeah, if you got two guys that just basically don't want to give anything to make a fight, yeah, you'll have a hard time making a fight. And I think that's what happened with Lennox Lewis and Riddick Bowe. I think Bowe felt like he didn't have to give anything to fight Lewis. He felt like Lewis ought to be fortunate to make that fight. And, you know, you're going to take what we get. And the offers that Riddick Bowe put out there, they probably reflected that. Because there were a few offers that Lennox's team turned down to fight Bowe. And the offers probably reflect. I don't know what the offers were. But I know they were rejected. And I know Lennox wanted to fight. So if the offers were rejected and Lennox wanted to fight, more than likely they were offers that he and his team felt like were disrespectful. And I could see, and I'm going to tell you, I'm the biggest Riddick Bowe fan. You know, Riddick Bowe, one of my favorite heavyweights all time. But I can honestly say that I can believe without a shadow of a doubt that Riddick Bowe could, and his team would have offered Lennox a very disrespectful offer because of the bad blood between them. You know, because at some point they got to where they just didn't like each other as men. You know, I mean, even today, Riddick Bowe still talks bad about Lennox Lewis, calls him gay and so forth and so on. I mean, so I can honestly see him making some disrespectful offer. And I can say that, you know what I'm saying, that's not because of their personalities, that's because there was bad blood between the two guys. And you know, sometimes that bad blood may lead to one guy or both guys feeling like they're not going to concede anything to make the fight, or they're not going to concede enough to make the fight happen. And I'm telling you, from my standpoint, with the AJ Wilder situation, the fight not happening has more to do with the A side of the equation, which is what AJ presents himself as, and his team presents him as the A side. They were unwilling to make an offer that made the B side feel like they were getting enough, that they were respected enough, and that what they had accomplished was considered enough into the offer to make them accept that offer. And when Wilder played the role of A side, he offered AJ not only the $50 million that he asked for, he also offered him 50-50 split of the back end money. Why? Because he considered what AJ had accomplished and who AJ was, what AJ brought to the table when making that offer. AJ reclined that very, very respectable offer, unprecedented offer for a heavyweight. $50 million up front, nobody's gotten that. So they made him an offer saying that their offer was saying, I want this fight. Here's the offer. Now let's hash out the terms. After you give me a verbal agreement that you're willing to accept the monetary terms of the offer. AJ, Eddie Hearn never accepted the monetary terms of that offer. Their counter went back from that original $12.5 million flat offer that they offered that was very disrespectful. No back end money for a guy who's bringing American pay-per-view money. To, okay, we'll give you 15 flat, and then here's some more terms. And then they never really ironed out the terms. And when Wilder finally said, okay, I'll agree to the 15 million monetary flat, even though I know I'm getting shafted. I'll take this. Now let's get everything else ironed out. Everything else was never ironed out. They sent over a contract that was incomplete. Wilder couldn't sign that. Same guy that made the video, he talks about these points as well, saying, well, Tyson Fury and Wilder, they've agreed to fight. They've accepted the fight, but they don't have a date or a venue. Isn't that what Wilder and his team was complaining about Joshua? Well, this is the same thing. Well, no, it's not the same thing, sir. What makes it different is they had a contract with no date or venue that they were asking Wilder to sign. Unless you can say, show, or prove where Tyson Fury and Wilder have a signed contract that doesn't have a date or venue, then it's not the same thing. Because we know that they were saying Wilder needs to sign this contract. Wilder also was not happy with the rematch clause in the contract, thus why he didn't sign. The man is going to go to the UK, take short money for the magnitude of the fight that Eddie Hearn himself said is a massive fight, biggest fight in world boxing. That's what AJ said. I mean, that's what Eddie Hearn said. Wilder's going to go over there and take short money. He's also supposed to not know what date the fight's for, which was supposed to be sometime in 2018, which turns out that they actually want the fight to be in 2019, in April. He didn't agree to that, so he didn't sign. But also, he's supposed to go over there. The rematch clause only favors AJ if he loses. Wilder's going over there knowing that in the UK, with the way the decisions have gone in Anthony Joshua's fights and the way they've had these suspect stoppages, he's going over there with no rematch clause and taking short money and doesn't know the date or venue when he signs the contract. That would have been nuts. Basically, he's putting himself in a position where he has to have a knockout to win the fight. And if he gets in trouble at any point in the fight, it'll probably get stopped. If it goes to the scorecards, he already knows he's not going to win on the scorecards just based off of previous fights that Anthony Joshua has had in previous scorecards. So it would have been foolhardy of him to sign that contract. So he didn't. And he moved on to something else. Now he's fighting Fury. I think the boxing fans, the boxing world needs to get behind that fight, because like it or love it, Tyson Fury is, like it, love it, or hate it, Tyson Fury is the recognized lineal champion, because he beat the man who beat the man who beat the man, and nobody's beat him in the ring. And it doesn't matter that Anthony Joshua now possesses all of his vacated titles or stripped titles. That doesn't make AJ the lineal champion. Wilder's not the lineal champion. So unless Fury lost that lineal championship, he's still the lineal champion. So that title is his to lose, and he has to lose that in the ring or retire. Since neither of those things have happened, the man is still the lineal champion. Wilder is the WBC champion. That can't be disputed. He beat the guy who won the title when it was vacated by Vitali in dominant fashion. When a lot of people said he wouldn't beat the guy, he went out and beat him. He's defended that title like 6 times, knocked everyone out that tried to take that title from him, including the guy he won the title from originally. Knocked out the so-called boogeyman of the division. I ain't gonna say so-called. Hell, Luis Ortiz is the boogeyman of the division. Nobody wants to fight that man. So I'm not even gonna say so-called. I'm gonna give him his props. He's the boogeyman of the heavyweight division. Wilder knocked him out. Wilder stopped him. Did Wilder have some rocking moments in that fight? Yes. Was that not to be expected when you consider who and what Luis Ortiz is? Hey, that fight was an epic fight. I watched it 4 or 5 times, and I still haven't seen this 20, 30 seconds of recovery time that people make videos about saying that Wilder got. The commission took him to the corner. They looked at him. They said, okay, he looks good. They let him go. Luis Ortiz jumped right back on him and still couldn't get him in trouble again. And y'all are butthurt because Wilder never went down and he never got stopped. You know, he never allowed the ref to stop the fight. That's basically what happened. You know, when Wilder got in trouble and he knew that he was in a position where the ref could potentially try to step in, he did what he had to do to keep the ref from stepping in. So, fast forward to now, he's in a position to unseat Tyson Fury as the lineal champ. A lot of people are putting a lot of disrespect on that fight. A lot of people don't want to give the fight the just due that it deserves. But at the end of the day, y'all can hate all y'all want. Y'all can't rewrite history. These guys are who they are. This fight means what it means. And the winner of this fight is going to be in a major power position in the heavyweight division, and they will be deservedly so. So that said, I'm going to say it again, and I've said it in several other videos. Man, stop hating on this fight. Stop hating on these guys. Give these guys the credit. They stepped up to fight one another. Both guys could have made excuses not to fight one another, and they're not doing that. And from what I've heard and what I've read, Wilder is giving Tyson Fury a 50-50 split. That shows how a champion respects another champion and is giving the man credit and coming to the table, present him with an offer that makes him feel like, hey, I recognize and I see what you've done, and this is what I'm going to give you if you come to the table and make this fight. Tyson Fury shouldn't have to accept this fight and feel like he got shafted. And nor should Wilder have to accept the fight, or nor should he accept or be willing to accept the fight with AJ, where he has to feel like he was stripped of his dignity, deserving of a champion. And that, from my standpoint, is why that fight was never made. It has nothing to do with guys liking each other's personality or guys having similar personalities or any of that. I mean, that makes for a good video and a good topic of discussion, but that has nothing to do with why fights get made or don't get made. If guys only fought guys who acted like them, a lot of the best fights in history would have never been made. I mean, you got even Marvin Hagler was a quiet guy, you know, and he fought guys like Sugar Ray Leonard, who, even though Sugar Ray wasn't really a loud guy, but Sugar Ray was flashy, he was cocky, you know. So, you know, it has nothing to do with that. You know what I'm saying? It has zero to do with that. You know, and like I said, the bottom line is when guys want to fight one another, they find a way to make the fights happen. And if you're the guy sitting in a position of power as the A side, you have to make an offer that makes the B side feel like he's getting something besides a shot. Especially when the guy's accomplished himself. You know, if you just pulling some guy up that's number 7 in the rankings and he's never been in a title fight, he's never really been in a fight against another named fighter, yeah, that guy's probably willing to just take whatever he can get because he's getting a title shot, he's getting your name on his resume, and if he's confident and feels like he can win, he's going to take it. Because that's probably the one and only shot he's going to get without having to put in a whole lot more work. But when you're talking about another champion, respect that man as a champion and make an offer that says, hey man, I want to get this fight done. Wilder's $50 million offer with 50-50 on the back end, that said I want to make the fight. AJ's $12.5 million flat offer that he said he'd grab with 2 hands if he was in Wilder's position is not an offer that says I want to make the fight. Neither is that $15 million offer with the rematch clause only in his favor, with the fight having to happen in 2019 in April when y'all said y'all would make the fight in 2018. That says you don't want to make the fight. This fight will happen when AJ's either put in a position where he's no longer the A side and his fights aren't selling like they used to sell, and the perception is no longer that he's the man at heavyweight and he needs to make the fight, it may happen. Or it may just happen when AJ, as he said, feels like he's in the best position to win. Those were his words. Guys, say what you want, feel how you want to feel. You cannot rewrite history. You cannot unsay the cowardice things that AJ and Eddie Hearn has said about facing Deontay Wilder. Those guys don't want that fight unless they're in a position to maximize what they can get, so that if they lose, they're in a position where they feel like, hey, look what we got for losing. And even that 50 million up front wasn't enough to make them take that fight. That should tell you everything you want to know. And you can believe the deal was real, believe the offer was real or not. But when you ask me, if you look at the people who were behind the deal, you would have to be nuts to think they would put their names out there. And I'm talking about Eddie Hearn. I'm talking about even Steven Espinoza saying that the deal was real. In Shelly Finkel, these people aren't sticking their neck out there and their credibility out there just to say, aha, you know, we got you. I mean, that's nuts. But ultimately, people are going to believe what they want to believe. These guys are going to keep pushing out these videos, saying whatever they want to say for that day. But the thing is, I'm going to be consistent in what I say. I'm going to be consistent in what I believe. And I'm going to keep pushing out my videos and saying the things that I know from my vantage point to be true. You know, on that note, once again, I'm going to say, if you're liking my videos, please subscribe, like, share, comment. I'm about to get out of here. Y'all have a good one. Peace.